Sure. So I think to provide some context, a blockchain with itself can't generate a secure source of randomness. Either you have to have like the miners do it, but then they can manipulate it, or you can have some off-chain entity delivering it, but there's no way to tell if that randomness was actually random or not, because manipulated randomness just looks like randomness if you have no way to prove it. So what Chainlink offers is a verifiable random function, which is it's a complex math function where you input a seed value, it generates a random value and a cryptographic proof. You post those on chain, and then you can verify that the random value was actually generated based on the original seed value given, meaning it can't be manipulated by any entities. You have a cryptographic proof that this randomness was correct. And randomness, it might seem like a small thing, but it's actually significant for gaming applications. If you have a rare item, you want to actually know that it's rare. So that rarity, the drop rate of an item, that depends on a randomness function. And so Chainlink VRF can be used as that randomness function to provide users a very strong guarantee that their items are provably rare because it was minted using this randomness function that can't be manipulated. And we're kind of seeing that not just with gaming, but also with non-fungible tokens, NFTs, which blew up a lot recently, where you can use randomness to create a new NFT with random attributes, random traits. You can distribute that NFT in a verifiably random manner. So it basically gamifies these NFTs. It makes them more dynamic, not entirely static, but can change according to randomness that can't be manipulated by a single entity. Because if you can manipulate that randomness, that NFT is worthless, basically, because anybody can mint any type of NFT they want and say it's random. But if you don't have a cryptographic proof backing it, then nobody can actually verify if you just sent a value that looked random but wasn't. So Chainlink VRF is basically solving the randomness issue on the blockchain, which is important for gaming, for NFTs, and also for unique things like no loss lotteries, where money is pooled into a money market and all the interest gets awarded to the some random winner, and then everybody who deposited can withdraw their original funds. So there's entirely unique concepts that can be created using randomness.
Yeah, randomness plays a big role in the kind of the idea generation for DeFi applications. Like you mentioned, the random lotteries where different users pull together funds and essentially a random user is picked to become a winner. The fascinating thing about the randomness is that it has a real world applications in the real world games. Just not only to receive a certain item with a generated probably fair and verifiable randomness probability, but also whenever somebody buys a loot box, for example, right? We see in majority of the games, we see a probability of some of the items dropping, right? And this would be a real world application, which I'm really excited for, because there's been a lot of talk on the regulatory side to make sure that this side of the development is actually transparent to the user, because a lot of front-end users like gamers, kids, get addicted to this kind of environment and essentially bargaining their own family money in order to gain some of the items. But I see this as, if Chainlink would implement this randomness in the real world gaming environment, this would solidify it not only from the user perspective, but also from the regulatory perspective.
Yeah, I would entirely agree. I think a lot of games, they're created by a centralized entity, and that publisher, they can change the game however they want. They may tell you, yeah, this item's, you can get 1 in 1 millionth chance of getting it in this loot box. But really, you're just trusting them that they're not manipulating you, that they're not just lying. You have no way to verify. But if you could use Chainlink VRF and you have a cryptographic proof that verifies that randomness wasn't manipulated, then not only is that like a better user experience, but they actually have higher guarantees of the value of an item that's supposed to be rare. And like on the regulatory aspect, we have things like the state lottery, where Chainlink had a hackathon recently with the Colorado state lottery, where you're able to, create these more official lottery systems using VRF to choose the winners. Because we see things like the McDonald's scratch lottery thing, and that was manipulated for tens of millions of dollars because it wasn't actually verifiable. But if we are able to create these lotteries, these applications, any type of application that needs randomness, like selecting jurors for a court case, or choosing pretty much any like random samples for a scientific study, you need randomness for that. So Chainlink VRF, it's great for smart contracts, but it's also great for everything off-chain as well that needs cryptographic proof that something is random, and it can be published on-chain. Therefore, anybody can verify it. It's completely transparent. Anybody can audit it to actually verify that this randomness was random. So I think randomness, it'll see it. It's already seeing its product market fit in NFTs and gaming. But I think these off-chain applications and services, that's just going to be the next stepping stone to making the world verifiable, essentially. So I think that's the next large avenue for VRF.
This is essentially truly incredible, because by having this conversation with you, I'm starting to realize that Chainlink has a possibility not only be a market provider of this type of technology, but also be a regulator, an entity that essentially regulates decentralized Oracle networks, which essentially what Chainlink White Paper 2.0 introduces us into this new world.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's so much like regulatory, because that's like that has a defined meaning. But I would say it provides entities like regulatories the tools they need to actually set up the systems they want in a verifiable manner. So like when you think of more of like a governance aspect, the Chainlink network isn't like a single network. It's not a monolithic network like a blockchain, but it's actually like a framework for creating lots of different networks, lots of different Oracle networks. And each Oracle network can have a different purpose. It can have a different governance system. It can, some may do randomness, some may do proof of reserve, some may do price feeds. Each one has like a specific purpose to it. And the governance of each one can be defined by the person who needs the data, essentially. So it's Oracle technology. It's something that's going to be used by all entities. Regulatory will be one aspect of that. We already see like KYC and AML oracles launching. So if a enterprise wants to be regulatory compliant and use smart contracts, they can use that Chainlink oracle to make sure the addresses they interact with aren't blacklisted by a federal agency. So it's all kind of opt-in. But if you want to deliver that type of data to help regulatories, you can do that. You could deliver any type of data you need, any type of data you would ever possibly imagine.